Thank you for joining Wolf Game Theory today, as always. And just know nothing in the show is to be construed or interpreted as financial advice. Also, any guest of the show is not reflective of the opinions and/or point of view of Wolf Game Theory and should be considered opinion. Thank you. Hello, everybody out there on the farm. This is the Wolf Game Theory again. I am Layer Cake, and this is
Neil Bottle.
Today we're going to be joined by Brian DeSanto, but before that we're going to run into Wolf Game statistics. First we'll start off with our standings as usual. Top four still remaining unchanged. Actually, I'm lying. Wongsworth has moved into the top four.
Oh.
Wow. I just shocked myself right on air. So we're going to start off with Real Crypto Coach Corey, G Money, Panther QB19, which is pretty standard for the course since the beginning. But then we have Mr. Wongsworth moving into the top four, and look at those four fucking fortifications. Holy shit.
Wow.
If you weren't watching Wongsworth before, you goddamn are right now. I for sure tell you that if you're in the lead. We'll again go Crypto Coach Corey's team number 2 again, followed by AJ Vanderchuk, Woolish 1026, Gianni Mo, and Just Some Guy. Finishing out the bottom half of the order, which is Friend 721, Lord Fenrir, Malcode, and the Shamdu, with Mr. Anon in the basement as usual. Running through the attacks, looks like a pretty busy morning with a lot of attacks today. Running backwards down the number line, we'll start off with Johnny Moe, who's just been Mr. Attack lately. I don't know if you've noticed that, but he attacked Woolish 1026, trying to distance himself from that pack and make some moves. We then have G Money with another attack. I don't know about you, but I was expecting fortification at this point, but nothing's holding back G Money with a Real Crypto Corey attack, followed by another Crypto Corey attack by House Panther, the Shamdu, turning coat and attacking Mr. Panther today. We all assumed that Shamdu and Panther were kind of in bed together, but apparently not. And I think we're getting to this later, but I think there was a little bit of something going on with the Wool game today in regards to that. Wongsworth again continues the barrage on Crypto Corey. Woolish Pack 10 or 1172, AJ Vanderchuk attacks Woolish 1026 on what looks like a double team. If we look at JMO's activity, really going after 1026. Obviously, those two see 1026 as the immediate threat to their ascension. Frenzy Fortified, Malcode, which is Mr. Mercenary. Probably, I would assume Mr. Corey commissioned this attack against Panther. And then we'll finish it out with Just Some Guy attacking Crypto Corey and Crypto Corey attacking none other than Panther. If we look at the Mercenary attack channel, we can probably connect the dots and see that Crypto Coach Corey won the last Dutch auction to attack Mr. Panther. Is that correct?
Yep, that is. I checked the code all right, and there's interactions with Corey on that one. And then this looks, this is a hit on Panther, but I haven't checked who it is, so I'll check on that and I'll get back if we figure it out. But nice. Yeah, I think we'll just go straight in to start talking to our guest if he has any words on what we were talking about just there. But we have Brian DeSanto on today, so welcome. Delighted to have you on.
What is up, guys?
Thanks what up, Brian?
What's up? Today has been electric, I would say. We had the end of Wool Event 1. We had some fireworks in general chat, and we had a standing shakeup. I think we're seeing Wongsworth rise, we're seeing JMO rise, we're seeing some people come to life, and it's been really cool to see things move.
No doubt. What do you think about that Wongsworth move?
Wongsworth is playing such an impeccable game. He is like he's sliding under the radar. People are not paying attention to him. He's stacking fortifications. And frankly, he might be playing the best game of any team right now. And I really respect his approach.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to talk to Wongsworth at all?
I have. I actually go way back with Wongsworth. One of the first projects I minted was Gutter Cat Gang, way back.
Great.
Feels like a decade ago in NFT land. But we were both a part of that community together. So we've been, dishing it out a little bit on Alpha Game, on Wolf Game, on Wool Event 1. But he is steady as it goes. He is Mr. Diplomatic. He is Mr. I want to make everybody happy. I want to benefit the team, but I also don't want to ruffle any feathers.
Right.
I think as far as early game goes, if you think we're in the first quarter of a 4-quarter football game, his move was, let's slide into 4th or 5th. Let's maintain pace, but not piss anybody off. I have to say, I think he's been doing that incredibly effectively.
Right. Or if he is going to piss somebody off, maybe it's better that it's Corey. See,
Might just be that way.
Yeah, I'm impressed with Wongsworth. I think, again, like you said, he's played a near perfect game at this point. I mean, he's really levied his attacks and his fortifications well. He hasn't ruffled anybody's feathers. I don't really see... and I've got to probably look back pretty far to see if there was actually an attack on him, which I don't think there has been. But I do definitely see down the road that AJ and Johnny will definitely have their eye on Wongsworth. If they don't have an alliance with him currently, then I feel like he is going to be in their crosshairs, because if we remember the spaces, they were constantly trying to poke and prod Wongsworth to sort of join in the banter. And like you said, he remained pretty level-headed and even-keeled about it. So evidently holding his strategy tight to the vest.
And I think if you look at Wong or even G Money, both have somehow avoided these nukes. You know, there are Corey's been attacking Panther and vice versa. I think you have JMO attacking Woolish. You sort of have them like dodging these other attacks. But I think it's just a matter of time before they're both in the crosshairs of somebody, whether it's, somebody directly in front of them or behind them. So I think it'll remain quiet for them shortly, but I wouldn't expect that to last much longer.
Let's shift gears a little bit to the Wool game. What's your impression of that whole process, and how do you think that worked out? Do you feel like it was kind of a blip on the radar? Do you feel like a lot of people put a lot of energy into it? I mean, obviously today we had a lot of movement, but how do you feel as though, as an interim to the interim game, do you feel like this is a tale of what's to come with game number 2, or do you think it's going to be something totally different? It was broad speculation, of course.
I loved it. I thought it was electric. I think it's a microcosm of what we're going to see for Alpha Game as a whole. I think to change the stakes and very intentionally influence people's actions was incredibly smart by Shep. And again, This is speculation. I don't know if it's confirmed Alpha or just what I believe in my head. But if Event 1 was all about animals and points appreciation, I think Event 2 has to be about wool and has to be about wool appreciation, wool accumulation, and movement. And I think by using percentage change as that key metric to determine who placed where, it did an incredible job of equalizing the playing field. It really took all of the power out of somebody like Corey, who has hundreds of assets, has seemingly infinite funds, and really gave those smaller packs not just a chance in Wool Event 1, but a chance to really equalize their EV for all of Alpha Game. So I would expect Event 2 to be something along the lines of how much wool can you accumulate and what percentage change do you see?
Yeah, and so you feel like that gives a little bit of an advantage to those sort of whales where they can just accumulate mass amounts of wool at a time? Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the price of wool has been pretty steadily accumulating. I feel like we've been in a really broad accumulation phase here, consolidation, accumulation, whatever you want to call it. So I think, a lot of people are really imagining that the, maybe not the interim game number 2 or, the announcement of the main game will make this thing kind of rocket up a little bit, the same way the interim game announcement did.
And I think you'll see if there is this wool event 2, I think we're up to about 75% of all wool is staked, which frankly for a game token is astronomical. I think animals are almost like 90% staked, which is credit to the community and just how invested this core group of people are. But I would expect, again, not financial advice, I'm not someone who does technical analysis, but I think if we see a wool-focused event where accumulation comes into play that leads to staking, I think we could see wool jump up into the 20 to 30 cent range. And then once we start to get closer to main game when we see things like breeding, maybe we see estate expansion, maybe we see other utility that we're not predicting yet. I think that's when the rocket ship really takes off, once that utility comes into play.
Wow. Yeah, no, I agree. My only comparison can be to other sort of mechanisms in the space, kind of like, Smallverse and things like that. So that brings my brain immediately to layer 2, where,
Yeah.
we had a conversation with just some guy yesterday where he sort of, and I kind of held him to it a little bit when he said the word wormhole, which is sort of this phrase that's thrown around Solana as the bridge to the layer 1, layer 2. And that sort of brought me back to that one gift the shepherd had with the purple sort of pathway into the wormhole, the land of high risk and reward. So is the land of high risk and reward, is that layer 2? I mean, I don't know.
Potentially.
Yeah, I think so too. A lot of people
about Wolf Chain, Shepherd and Co. are developing their own layer 2, specifically for Wolf Game and other play to earns. Again, not confirmed, but if you believe that they have heavy DeFi experience and background there, I think that the end game for Wolf Game, this 4-year period, isn't potentially just a sequel, other games, other spin-offs, but a whole layer 2 chain of play to earn games in this larger universe. It kind of starts to expand your horizons on how bullish you can get, if there's any cap to that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think with the innovations that we're seeing as we go, with the stealing of NFTs, the wool pouches, and all these other mechanisms that are sort of being brought in or merged to create these new, again, I'll go back into the herdsman coming out with his sort of new auditing process, and all of these things are sort of, underpinning this community that are alluding towards, the use of this technology, like you think, in a broader scope, in other games. Maybe not in this game, but the pouch could be used, as a mechanism for a totally different game that deals with, intergalactic space travel or something, but, I digress.
That I think Shep can leverage for other projects, other games, put a new shiny coat of paint on them. But I think what he's building are these innovative solutions that are modular. They can be repurposed, they can be reskinned. And I think that's, for me, what's so exciting about Wolf Game and the dev team. The fact that they've proven that they can innovate quickly under immense pressure. You think about the first 2 exploits in this whole wolf issue when the game was paused. I mean, to come up with the wool pouch on the fly and implement that in a way that was so savvy and supports the whole economy, for me, that was the moment that I think I was fully sold on where this is going and the potential. And I think sometimes beautiful things and innovation can happen out of shitty situations and issues, sort of innovation by necessity. And I think to see that in play and practice is pretty damn cool.
Absolutely. I know me and Neil speculate a lot about farmers and land, and I know that's sort of become a recent fixation for yourself as well. I know Neil's hoping for robot farmers. That's his big sort of Christmas wish this year, I believe, is robot farmers.
Yeah, it sure is. I'm big on the PFP side of it. I'm very interested to see how that's going to play out. What different attributes they're going to have, rarities, and then the functionality of that rarity within the game. So, as I said, robot farmers make sense that they're going to have the highest multiplier because they can automate. They don't need sleep. They don't need maybe fuel. They don't need the same kind of stuff as other ones. But I'm super excited for farmers. I know you are too, Brian.
I mean, farmers for me are the wild card. I think they are the most undervalued asset in Wolf Game right now, other than maybe wool, but of the core assets. I think, your point about PFPs, what's so interesting is if you look at NFTs in the industry last year, it was all about PFPs and collectibles, and utility came later. And I think that's the wave that we're seeing now from Bored Apes and Gutter Cats and Pixel Vault and all those OG projects. What's interesting about Wolf Game is it started with utility and functionality and tokenomics. it didn't have a PFP or collectible angle beyond that. So I think to overlay PFPs specifically through farmers, and whether we get robots or aliens or apes or golden farmers, or maybe there's a one-of-one shepherd, which I hope that I win.
Yeah.
I like the gold ones. The gold ones is really, I like that one.
I think there's a whole new opportunity to bring in a new audience of players specifically for that angle. And then you get all of the utility around. Do they multiply your land yield? Do they protect you from wolves? Do they reduce taxation rate? Do they increase your, maybe your breeding rate of sheep? I could see different types of farmers amplifying your setup in different ways. And maybe there's a matching component. Maybe there's certain parcels of land that specialize in grain, and you need to find a farmer that's a grain multiplier to effectively use that. I think they really have an opportunity to totally change the game. And there's a huge deficit. You look at Genesis land plots, there are 20,000 of those, but only about 11,000 farmers. I'm of the belief that we will never get more farmers. I think it's this set of 11K. I think Shepard is fucking pissed that we didn't take his farmermen seriously. I think he is vengeful as hell. And I think he is hell-bent on delivering as much value to these assets as possible.
I agree.
Don't forget that the Shepherd, is in the likeness of a farmer himself. So that's my theory there. I think there's a lot more to come, but I am so pumped for reveal and utility whenever that comes.
Yeah, I'm hoping maybe we'll get a Gary V. Terminatus made that Gary V the other day for that GIF. I think we should have just done a full show just on that GIF. That was so amazing. He's come such a long way. I'm so proud of him.
So talented.
It's amazing. And that's the fun of it. And that's, I think, where we're going to get back to here in a moment, is that sort of really intense group speculation and then preparation for the main event, so to speak, and what we're going to see. But I also like to leave room for what you're talking about, that 4-year sort of period of development. And I think that's where we're all going to sort of relish about this experience in the end, is that we were all pieces of that development. And when this thing is done in 4 years, and sort of the world is looking at this thing that we've all been a part of and sort of pounding the table about, we're going to look at ourselves as founders, and I think we'll be rewarded as such, for sure.
Yeah, and just touching off what you were saying there, in relation to that, like it's a very unique community in the way that the Shepherd has delivered everything. The importance of the gifts and them rolling into being relics with a in real life auction. You know what I mean? These sorts of aspects that keep on rolling out, and then the way the community reacts to it. I know there was pushes in the right direction, but yeah, it is just it's a special time to be involved in what I believe is a very kind of big project, long term.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where, and I tell this to people all the time, and I remind myself of it constantly. I think people have such short-term thought horizons in the NFT space. People want something new every single day. And I think it's so important to zoom out, think bigger, think about where this can be 2, 3, 4 years from now. Because right now we're in Alpha Game, we're in Wool Event 1. We're all consumed with what's happening right now. And it's almost easy to lose sight of the fact that we haven't even started playing Wolf Game yet. We don't know what any of these assets do. And I think for so long, that speculation around what things might do, what powers they might have, what the utility is, I think is what fueled a lot of prices and excitement and hype. But for me, I'm looking at full game launch. And then I'm thinking about, 2, 3, 4 years from now, what other games might spin off from these Genesis assets that we're all so lucky to be holders of? What technology and innovation might come beyond just this one piece of technology, this one game, that, we as Genesis holders of these tokens might be privy to. And I think Shepard won't lose that. It's, he is going to continue to try to bring value and drive economic resources to the people that supported this from day one. I fully believe that's the way. So I think if you're a believer in Shepard, that team, Wolf Game, play to earn, you're in the perfect spot right now.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, and then
the last thing I wanted to sort of talk about. Go ahead, Neil, if you got something to finish
no,
up
just
on the subject.
touching off that. A lot of what you were saying there reminds me of Pixel Vault, and I'm a long-term investor. I know you are yourself. They're about to break some big news today, it looks like, in their spaces. So I'd love for you to touch on your opinion. I'm so pumped. But I'd love to hear your opinion on that as well. Just because, they do remind me of similar projects in a lot of ways. And then also the kind of Pixel Vault are known for rewarding holders,
Absolutely.
When I scout projects, I'm looking for special. I'm looking for unique. I'm looking for somebody who's bold enough to do something different and big. I think if you look at Bored Ape Yacht Club and most of the projects that came last year, they were mostly copycats. They were trying to take the Bored Ape Yacht Club community approach, put a new paint, coat of paint on it, change the actual, imagery and art. But at the core, it was a copycat of that base contract. When I saw Pixel Vault and you look at someone like G-Funk and what they're building and their whole idea of becoming this decentralized Disney, the marvel of the metaverse, I think when you start to realize that it's an IP play that spans gaming, it spans movies, it spans TV, and that there isn't a project that's done that yet. And then you look at their connections to amazingly OG projects. I mean, they have partnerships with Bored Ape Yacht Club and Adidas. They have deep roots with Punks, in Punks Comic 1. So you can imagine, Pixel Vault is Disney, and they create movies and TV shows around CryptoPunks, Bored Apes, Meta Heroes, their own piece of IP, just to start. And those franchises are endless. So I think the fact that Pixel Vault is thinking in that way, is sort of satiating our need for entertainment and cinematics and all of that is really cool to see. But then to actually be a holder and be rewarded, if you minted one Punks comic, you got a free mint pass, which you could then redeem for a meta hero, which is worth, I think, about 7 or 8 ETH as of this morning. You got airdrops of free planets. You got access to the Adidas Into the Metaverse drop. You got an Apes token recently for their, Elite Eight covers. So they've created this ecosystem of if you minted early, you held a Genesis token, you've been rewarded with compounding tokens. And I think Shepard and Wolfgame, you think about Genesis assets, Gen Zeros, we already got lands, which is one of the 4 integral pieces of Wolfgame. I don't think that'll be the last thing that were airdropped by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. And we also, and you didn't even get into the staking of the comic. You can stake it too.
There are things that even, it's hard to keep track of how much free shit we've gotten.
Yeah.
I know.
So one of the things I was noticing also in the community that kind of got glossed over by the Wool game and some of the drama is what you guys announced on Spaces yesterday, and that was the fact that this team was forming a DAO, and I thought that was pretty awesome and pretty amazing. I would love to hear your thoughts on that aspect of the game. For me, it's yet another example of community innovation, but I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
I think it is an example of 1, community innovation, to your point, but 2, also, I think generosity and selflessness. I think somebody like Fenrir, who has an Alpha 8, which is the most scarce and valuable asset in all of Wolfgame. I would estimate that it's worth at least 1,000 ETH, and that may be even conservative. But to contribute that to a DAO and allow the broader community to buy in some capacity, get access to that token, and actually play Wolfgame, with a community. I think of like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XI or any of these MMORPGs. You can start to think of Wolfgame as having guilds. Because I think as a smaller player, I get asked this question all the time, as I'm sure you do, but if I'm somebody who only has 1 ETH or less than that, or only can afford 1 sheep or a little bit of wool, can I even play Wolfgame? And I think, with the advent of DAOs and community-driven play, the answer is a resounding yes. You can buy in with a fractionalized token of this Wolfgame setup. You can make group decisions. if you look at risky game, the hardest position to be in was if you had one or two sheep. Because when you ran the numbers and you ran the math, it's a lot of people, but if you ran the numbers and you ran the math, the EV was resoundingly in favor of playing risky. But the problem was if you had one or two sheep and the coin toss went the wrong way, you walked away with no wool.
I did not play a risky game. Just for
you didn't play. Which, I had one sheep, I probably would have went your route as well. But I think to not only stack assets and sort of have power in numbers, is one side of it, but to sort of enjoy the game and make community-driven decision-making, as this game evolves, it becomes much more strategic and nuanced and challenging. I think it's arguably the perfect use case for a DAO. I think gaming and strategy is such a good application of that. So I'm excited to see that it's happening. I was surprised that nobody had taken that approach to date, but to see a DAO form and have an A8 included is just incredibly powerful and really cool to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just the selflessness that it would take to do something like that is a testament to our community itself.
Oh yeah. And the accumulation in the terms of the DAO, the accumulation that will come from that Alpha 8 back into the DAO, it being the kind of most sought after asset in the game, you know what I mean? That's going to be super kind of interesting to see how that it's managed, and taking votes on those sort of things. That excites me as well. Yeah,
you think about passive income. I mean, that A8, if dynamics mirror early phases, the amount of babies that wolf will steal, the amount of wool that it will tax. I mean, there is just so much potential for passive income through that one asset alone. So I think I will be buying in. I cannot wait to see what happens, but that is a grail piece to own. And because I will never have ETH to buy one myself, I think that's the next best thing.
Right. Yeah. And it's just, I'm constantly, it seems like not a day or every couple of days, something new is sprouting up from this community that makes me say, yep, this is something special right here. And it has, I'll just leave it there. I wanted to say something about, when you brought up Bored Apes, it seems like that has been sort of this rally cry for projects these days, or we want to flip apes, or we want to be the next Bored Ape. And it's an outward part of their roadmap. And I just feel like that is something that, we don't want to flip Bored Apes. We want them to succeed, and we want to do something special for the space that allows us to perhaps one day glean that legacy, And
I think that's what's so, when I think about Wolf Game, I don't want to be the next AYC.
Absolutely.
I'm excited that it's not trying to do that. It's innovating in its own lane. It's doing its own thing. And it's really what it's doing is it's pioneering its own category. And I think to be the game, the project that leads in this space, that potentially takes play to earn mainstream and sort of becomes this living, breathing board game. I think of it a lot as people say Catan, Risk, Survivor. It's kind of all of those things packaged into one, but in a way that you can play it communally with thousands of players at one time for high stakes. So it taps into gaming impulses, it taps into gambling impulses, it taps into sort of community impulses. And I think that's what's so cool about it.
Yeah. I think on that note,
there you go, Brian.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Well, I just wanted to have one thing. If you have any project that you're looking at that's on your map that you wanted to kind of shout out or give any alpha on for anyone, maybe PvE or anything like that.
Wolfgang, it's funny. I started off in this space as the flipper. I was looking to buy anything and everything, get exposure to as much as possible, and just sort of get your feet wet. But I think at this phase, I'm looking to place really big bets on high conviction plays. I'm not a whale by any means. I started with about $15,000 of my own money. Last November, I bought maybe 10 ETH at the time, whatever it was. And I've sort of worked my way up from there. So I'm trying to concentrate, the funds that I have available into, a couple of projects. And the two I'm looking at are Wolf Game is one and Pixel Vault is two.
Yeah, that's mostly where I'm exposed at right now, for sure.
Yeah. And the same with myself.
Yeah, it's just they stick out. They stick out so much in a minefield. I mean, obviously, there's other things that are intriguing as well. The Neo Tokyo and some of the other things that are sprouting up. But point of entry. There isn't one for me yet there. But yeah, those are the two that really stick out because I come from a traditional investment background, and then I went into Bitcoin, and then I went into crypto, and I found NFTs, early around this time last year, and haven't looked back since.
Yeah.
But from that, I still can't shake that traditional analysis. So those traditional goggles I put on to look at value, look at P to E, and not to get caught up too much in the enthusiasm, but really look at the numbers and look at the team in play and what they're saying and be diligent about it. And I think that's going to reward people in the end. And as the space matures, I think there'll be more space for that. Less aping. I mean, that'll always be a part, but
And I think also, play to earn is so early. From what I've seen, it's Wolfgame, and then it's a bunch of projects copying the code. And it's exactly what happened with BAYC. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking at the space and trying to see, is there a project that has this play to earn model, but fundamentally is doing things differently? It's creating its own tokenomics. It's creating its own novel tech to support the project and the game. And I think if something comes along that can do that and seems coherent and seems high potential, that's where I'll be taking sort of my investment goggles. But I think this space, I think it's no surprise that all three of us are, so involved with these two projects. Wolfgame and Pixelvault have this intense strategy and thought and game theory attached that for me is so much more interesting and engaging than just collecting a PFP or, a piece of art. I love that stuff too. It taps into like my sports card, Pokemon card collector brain. But, I want to do analysis. I want to crunch numbers and data. And I want to make strategic decisions on the fly that, kind of like get your adrenaline going. And that's where risk comes in. So we'll see. But that's where my brain is going right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brian, so much. It is always a tremendous pleasure to have you on. Enjoy the surf down there in Puerto Rico. I want a full report when you get back.
Well, yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me, as always. It's a blast, and I'll see you on the Discord and the Twitter.
Excellent.
All right, my man. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Hi, guys. You too.